Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala khatimil anbiya. I would like to welcome my colleagues in this diploma. Those of you who were with me in last semester, perhaps you have some idea about our way of doing things. We are concerned about our faculty members' ongoing capacity building, and for that this diploma was designed about 12 years back. The purpose was to let you interact with faculty members who specialize in teaching methodology. So we have 4 modules on teaching methodology, dealing with educational psychology and counseling, curriculum development, assessment methods, and educational philosophy. And we have 2 modules that relate with, first, professional ethics and morality, and second, Islamic thought and culture. These 2, in our view, are needed because our faculty members must have a background in the philosophy of university. Unless they have that background, they cannot convey that to our young generation. Therefore, the 6th module was selected after careful consideration. This semester we will be dealing with Islamic thought and culture, and to have a background we will go over very briefly on some aspects of Western thought, and then we will come gradually to Islamic thought. In this diploma, you have an opportunity to brush up your research techniques and learn from persons who have been involved in training programs in educational methodology. My task is to cover these 2 modules. One module of thought in this semester and the other module of professional ethics in the 2nd semester. The pattern we have selected is interactive. That means you are not here in a classroom environment, but in interactive round table discussion forum. So you are expected to interrupt the presenter, irrespective of he is senior or young. Unless you learn to raise questions, you cannot learn anything from your own discipline. Questioning is the first step of research. And unfortunately, in our culture, Shaykh tradition is that whatever Shaykh says is always right. So don't question him. And that is wrong. So you have to come up with your very inquisitive, sharp questions, comments. Only then we can learn from this class. So please feel free to raise any questions. I hope you have received the course outline. That also tells you about your assignments, which should not be cut paste, nor taken from Wikipedia, nor just repetition of what you hear in the classroom, but your own thought and your own creative ideas. That's what you expect from your students. And unless you do it yourself, you will be failing in responsibility. So we begin with this first series of discussions. We are trying to understand what is the origin or genesis of Western thought. Western thought takes pride in relating its past with Greek thought. In Greek thought, there are towering personalities who came up with their own fruit of thought. So among those, Socrates refers to thought as seeking self-knowledge and understanding through clarity of ideas. Very simple words, but all that means is, when you want to learn something, you are learning more about yourself. And when you want to learn about yourself, then you have to develop clarity of thought, which means no ambiguity, no confusions, and no unthoughtful ideas. Quite often we jump on conclusions. Quite often we don't verify data, although we have access to it, but we don't do it because we are lazy people. So Socrates considers it is seeking your own self-discovery when you are involved in discovering of thought or knowledge. Plato thinks that philosophical thought concerns about discovering what is ultimately true. You see many things. A piece of cloth which you use for making a shalwar kameez, but what is its reality? Is it synthetic? Is it made from material which is body friendly? Is it made with material which is very costly but does not serve the purpose of dress? What is ultimate reality of cloth? Is it just some threads put together, or it requires imagination on the part of the person who is weaving it? What kind of weaving? Should you have more distances between threads or less distances? Every single aspect calls for questioning, digging deep and trying to find out. Modern day research begins with big data and going deep into data analysis and coming up with some conclusions. Plato is telling you about what is ultimate reality of everything. If you have a computer, what's its ultimate reality? Is it just a bunch of mechanical devices which are put together? How signals are generated, how data is explored? What is the real nature of this equipment? So he is more concerned about ultimate truth, absolute truth. That's what, in his view, is thought and philosophy. Aristotle thinks that we should begin our investigation into wondering, questioning, amazing, trying to find out how this whole phenomena works. Universe, human being, history, everything. And then he thinks that everything that takes place has a cause. If you are talking, then there is a cause of talking. You have certain vocal nerves, you have your tongue and teeth which play a role. Therefore, every single voice you made is a result of physical movement of your body. But what is the ultimate cause of listening or voice? How is it being generated? And that means exploring into areas of physics and chemistry and biology and anatomy. So, in simple words, these philosophers are telling us what in their view is preferable. For one, it's how wonderful things can be understood. For the other, it's a matter of what's ultimate reality. Today you have virtual reality and actual reality. But what is true? And similarly, the other one thinks that clarity of thought or logical thinking is what makes your thought meaningful. Whatever we have discovered till today is based on our empirical evidence. When this evidence is modified, further information is collected, results must change. So, what we knew as truth will not be absolute truth, but only tentative truth. You may have mastered 10 volumes of encyclopedia, but does that mean you have encyclopedic knowledge, quote unquote? You have knowledge of encyclopedias, 5 volumes, 6 volumes, which you have memorized, but you don't have yet encyclopedic knowledge. Therefore, truth will be when you have encyclopedic knowledge, then you can claim I have encyclopedic knowledge. So, these are intellectual steps, and that tell you when you start your PhD or MPhil and supervisor tells you what is your thesis, what is your problem. You present your problem. You say, what is the main question that bothers you? You put the question. Okay, but please analyze the question. So, you break it down, and that question is broken in your research scheme. After you have done your research, you try to compare how far the question you raise is answered here. If question relates with one domain and research domain second domain, we put an incomplete or F on your thesis. Therefore, when we say ultimate truth, this means that truth which cannot be challenged, which is ultimately true. What is the difference between truth and the truth? Why we put the? When you put the, it means this is the ultimate truth. When you say X is very kind, so and so is Kareem and Halim. When you say so and so is Al Kareem, Al Halim, what does that mean? That means ultimate, the, and the qualifies it by saying this is ultimate truth. Philosophy is essentially a matter of training your mind to think clearly and systematically, nothing more, nothing less. Unfortunately, the concept is that if a person talks with ambiguity, confusion, you call it philosophy. No. Philosophy means clarity. That's what he is saying. You clarify concepts, clarify problems, crystallize them, and all that is simply philosophical process. So, Western thought takes its pride in having origin in Greek thought, which is represented by a number of towering personalities. Modern thought goes back to 18th century, 19th century, and there you find that Immanuel Kant is a person who is considered as one of the framers and architects of modern thought. His main contribution lies in giving an understanding of ethics and morality, at the same time philosophical thinking as an obligation or categorical imperative, that which is binding, that you must do. This is what we call deontology, but I want to avoid all horrible terms and would like to use simple language so you can understand what we are doing. So, his concept was that everything is being done in terms of certain laws, and these laws operate in our life, in our behavior, in our thought. And these ideas can be categorized as good or bad, but finding out what is good or bad in his view is an obligation, and following that obligation is required from human beings. That means moral laws are to be followed. So, this is his contribution. Then we have among modern thinkers Friedrich Hegel from Germany, who came with the idea of everything essentially originates in a concept. It is that concept of ideology that is later on given a shape. So, you first cook an idea in your mind, imagine about it, developed a framework, and then ultimately that thing came into existence. Although Hegel was doing it to prove that human mind creates everything, but some philosophers took that idea and extended it, and they said it simply means this world cannot come existence unless a creator has conceptualized about it. So, the idea of materialism was countered with same logic by people to prove that Hegel was wrong in focusing on the material aspects. This was further developed by Karl Marx here, who took the idea of Hegel and substituted it with economic and material power. And his concept was that everything is essentially matter. Matter manifests itself in every single aspect of life. Among the modern philosophers, Auguste Comte is a remarkable philosopher who is architect of modern secularity. Auguste Comte's philosophy can be summarized in just few words. He looks on human thought and human civilization in different phases. First phase in his view is mythological and theological, which means people think about phenomena they call myth and believe in it, which becomes theology. So, all concepts about God, angels, Jannah or Jahannam for him is a matter of mythology. Then comes the age of metaphysics, logical analysis of what is beyond empirical reality, what is not physical. Metaphysical means that which is not physical, and that is speculative philosophy. So, this was second stage in his view, when humanity went through a stage of metaphysics. So, philosophy, all Greek thought came in that category. Then he claims that the final stage is positivist scientific age. Positivism does not mean something positive and not negative, but positive means when you have no need for any other thing except empirical reality. What you are studying in anatomy or economics or political science is positive, which means what exists materially. Can you visualize a democracy without people? without someone elected as president or prime minister? Can you think of any human body without physical limbs and nerves and what not? So what he said was, what is real is that which can be measured, which can be felt, which can be recreated. All else has no meaning. So positivism is not something constructive, not something good or bad, but positivism means there is only one reality, and that reality is empirical reality. Whether you are studying history or studying political science or philosophy or art, you go through a narrative that talks about physical existence of a phenomenon. Michelangelo in Rome painted in the roof and walls of Vatican Church how human beings were created. When you see that, you call it a piece of art. But what it is? It's a matter of imagination, color, some lines and their combination. And that is felt by your vision. You can touch it, you can see it, therefore it is real. So Auguste Comte, in one single stroke of pen, removed all other aspects of humanity except scientific reality. Today, all your sciences are based on this concept. When you want to do research, your professor asks you, is it quantitative, qualitative? And you say quantitative. Okay. What is the sample? Is it similar, dissimilar? What is the size of sample? What is the social constitution of sample? Is it male, female, old age people? And all that is your empirical reality. Based on that, you conclude trend of a people in business, in political science, in psychology, wherever you are. So he set aside metaphysical, religious, theological discussions and came up with the idea that it's only age of science. That's why you say that today nations which have technological advancement are big nations. That's why you say that you should teach your student skills which make him in market a welcome product. That's why you are told you should follow Washington Accord and you should go for outcome based learning, and you should go for your course objectives, PLOs and CLOs, and unless you follow all those aspects, you are not doing anything known as knowledge. Because when you do it, you make a product which is marketable, and what's marketable is success. So what's the ultimate end? Ultimate end is that you are recognizing ultimacy of matter, ultimacy of empirical reality. You have no concern at all for is this reality ethical, unethical? Is this reality socially conscious or not? The product may have mastered computing, engineering, dentistry, but does this product also have a concept of social service or just making money for himself or herself? Do this person's parents pay 9 lakh rupees for enlightenment of mind or for making the person a money making machine who can after 7 or 10 years have his or her own business and come up every evening pockets full of money. What's the objective of all this exercise? Therefore, what you are doing today globally is what Auguste Comte summarizes by saying you have entered the age of empirical reality. That is ultimate truth. That's why you say unipolar power. That's why you say Uncle Sam is more powerful than Uncle Red, who used to be pink, now is pink and maybe not pink even. So, the phenomena that exist according to Auguste Comte is essentially a matter of empirical reality. There has always been a revision within every tradition, and when we proceed further, you will find that other philosophers have come up with their own priorities which they felt are more important. Auguste Comte is talking about empirical reality. The next person, John Stuart Mill, is talking about collective good. What matters is not just materiality, but what provides satisfaction to large number of people. So, for him, good or ethical behavior is not what I do, but when we cumulatively look at it, and that is a benefit for more people. So, he prioritizes and thinks other things are more important than what Auguste Comte has said. And as I mentioned, these two persons, Karl Marx and his friend Friedrich Engels, both are of the view that neither social good or anything, but it is matter which changes its shape and ultimately brings a society which is classless. So, for him, the problem was existence of class conflict. Class conflict is the main problem responsible for everything in the universe, and when we are able to resolve that, we will have an ideal society which he calls communistic society, not socialistic. People normally confuse between what is communism and what is socialism. For Marx and Engels, socialism is a intermediary stage, and nowhere in the world till today the Marxist society has come into existence, because Marxist society is that ideal society where you have neither bourgeoisie nor proletariat. You do not have classes. You have classless society where everything is shared by the others, and that is only an idea. It is no reality. That is why you find that the name of former Soviet Union was Union of the Socialist Republics. This was not Marxist society, but socialist society, which was expected to grow into ultimately a Marxist society, which it never did. Nowhere in the world ever a Marxist society has come into existence till today. It's only socialistic environment where they are trying to build block over the block to create an imaginary world. It's utopia. So, then later on you find there are others who came up with different priorities. Charles Darwin, for example, essentially worked on plants and origin of species, and later on his theory was stretched by others to include human origin, and he was given credit for what he never said. So, his main contribution was that human societies evolve gradually, evolve from simple to complex, unicellular to multicellular complex phenomena. And for that he collected evidence, and based on that he came up with a statement about how different botanical plants survive, how new plants are grafted and created, and what is variation between them, and so on and so forth. So, his thought had deep impact on concept of society. Now, you have different philosophers with different emphasis. Your question was, do they revise? Definitely. They are revising, they are coming up with other dimensions which were not touched earlier, and that is the ongoing process. So, Sigmund Freud from Vienna, Austria, comes up with his psychological understanding and tells us that human psyche and human personality is guided by certain unknown phenomena, which he defines as libido, id and ego. The survival of the fittest relates with phenomena which we call environment, as well as the genetic structure of a body. Why dinosaurs could not survive? Is it because of genetic decline? Is it because of change of environment? Is it because of some disease that led to that? All those questions are to be raised, and then you can come up with a conclusion why some survived, why some not survived. Secondly, what is the internal link, correlationship between survival of some huge bodies we call dinosaurs and survival of some other species? For example, among the insects, you find cockroaches, not today, but in the whole history of mankind, and you do not find them extinct, you find them everywhere in the world. How they survive? How the insect did not survive? So, it is a question of empirical analysis, data analysis, and then concluding. What is missing completely in all that analysis is, are there also some moral ethical laws which lead to extinction or continuation of a people? Is it only biological and physical change, environmental change, due to which people survive or not survive? Now, this aspect has not been taken up by Western thought. Even Immanuel Kant, when he talks about categorical imperative, he is giving a idea, but he is not applying it in human history. It is only the Quran which has given a theory of history, and that theory of history is that only those nations survive who act ethically and morally, and those who violate ethics and morality cannot remain on the surface of the earth. Here, ethics and morality does not mean Do you shake hand smile with a smiling face or a frowning face? But ethics means when you are dealing in business, are you observing quality control? When you are dealing in political life, are you protecting rights of people or exploiting them? Ethics means when you are in your home, are you giving quality time to your family, or you are just there to enjoy food and sleep and then become an economic worker in society? Ethics is not just shaking hands smilingly. Ethics covers every single aspect of human activity, which has not been considered as such by Eastern and Western scholars except Islam. It's Islam alone which has given a comprehensive understanding of ethics, and therefore everything is to be judged from ethical standards. Is it ethical for you to pile up your stomach every morning with 9,000 calories when you need hardly 3,000? Is it ethical for you to disregard your neighbor and just listen to music because you love music in most loud volume? Ethics is not a matter of how you shake hand, which has been understood by the West or the East. It is Islam that provides a comprehensive understanding of ethics, and based on ethics, is it ethical that you know that your patient is terminal, that you are not telling the patient you are terminal? Is it ethics? Because you want to make money, you want to prolong the treatment, you want to keep on telling him no problem, we will cure it, because that helps you running your kitchen. So ethics is not a matter of smiling face, it's a matter of how things are to be done. And therefore survival of the fittest in Islamic context is for those who act ethically and morally. The difference is that ethics and morality is based on judgment, and that judgment is based on divine revelation. But lizards and snakes and foxes, we don't know yet do they have such an ethics. But we know that snakes have their own ethics. When the area where a snake lives is in danger, then a body mechanism arouses, and the snake either tries to squeeze and withdraw or run away, or starts to eject his poison on the enemy. That means certain reactions are taking place. But is it based on an ethics on which all snakes agreed? We have no idea. But we know that nations of the world have agreed, let Israel butcher people in Gaza, children, women, patients in hospitals, and we will keep silent. This is their ethics. That ethics does not exist with lions and leopards. We don't know yet what is their ethics, but at least the human ethics we see today does not exist among them. Even snakes and leopards and foxes have certain humanity. You must have read stories of some foxes which were able to even save human life, although they are not supposed to save but eat. So, ethics and morality is an area which will be in second semester inshallah. It's our this semester we are dealing with thought, not dealing with ethics and profession ethics, but we will go in more detail there inshallah and find out. You are very much correct. It's not just social animal, but you have a number of social sciences that define human being as basic animal, but acting due to certain other motivations. So, you have in economics Homo economicus, economic man. What does that mean? That means human being is slave to economic needs. You have the enslaved human being of id, ego, superego and libido. All terminology is used by Sigmund Freud to show that whatever you do in the heart of the matter, it is some kind of sexual pleasure for which you are doing it. So, and same with Karl Marx, that he tells you about whatever you are doing is essentially in the heart of affairs a material benefit. So, human being has been understood either as a material substance, as a psychosis, a confused personality, or a slave to political power, social power, economic power. And nowhere human being has been understood as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's deputy on earth, or different than animals. Definitions begin with social animal, economic animal, sexual animal, whatever you think of a discipline, but that regards human being essentially animal. And even when you want to understand human physiology and anatomy, you begin with animal world. Poor medical doctors have to bring frogs and other things. Even veterinaries bring various animals and work on them to find out how others behave. So, the whole concept of Western and Eastern thought is based on animality, which is basic. The Quran says, we have made human beings in ahsane taqweem. We have made them in their own right. They are not an outcome of a process nor a byproduct of a process. They are in their own right created. So, Islamic concept is very much different, which is not our concern right now. We are just trying to understand what are the roots, what are the main trends of Western thought, which is not too much different from Eastern thought either. If you go for Eastern thought of Hinduism, Buddhism, even Chinese religions, not much different in terms of analysis and conceptual framework. But since we have been enslaved for over 2 centuries by the West, and we still feel proud to be slaves of the West, teaching in English, talking in English, using all those textbooks which are printed in New York, London and Hague and Paris. We call that modern knowledge, authentic knowledge. Everything is being duplicated from Western thought. So, it is good to understand at least what are its roots, and then it is up to you to decolonize yourself or not. I have always been talking about decolonization of mind. that you have to decolonize yourself, come out of this cocoon in which you have been living for centuries, that West is bright and all else is dark. Look towards West, you will grow and develop. This is the sign of mental slavery. This is the sign of subjugation. This is the sign of colonization, which has been going on for over 200 years. But that's not the topic. The concern this morning is how Western thought has evolved and developed, and in that we are trying to see what has been the role of Greek and what is the role of modern philosophers like Freud and others. So, with that backdrop, what are the main questions which are raised by philosophers? First and foremost, what are the sources of our knowledge? Can knowledge acquired through sense experience be sufficient? Auguste Comte told you and others told you that whatever you acquire through empirical experience is truth, enough. So, the question is that true? What is the status of non-sensory knowledge? If you have some knowledge which is not based on sensation, but coming from some other source, what will be its status? How authentic is personal experience as source of knowledge and guidance? If I come and tell you that just now I have a new idea that came to my mind, now can that be taken as truth? Or can an individual concept be accepted as a concept of the whole community? Then, what's the purpose of human creation? Is there a life after death? How should human beings relate themselves with our universe, with the, human beings, and how they understand their own existence? These are the basic questions which are addressed by philosophers, whether they are from the East or the West. Now, when we are talking about modern thought, Western thought, what is meant by thought? Thought refers to both the process of mental activity to its fruit. Mental activity means when you are thinking logically, fruit means what comes out as conclusion. And both are part of thought. You cannot separate them. It's also concerned, it also considers an interior dialogue implying abstract forms and images. When you talk about honesty or fairness, when you talk about beauty, what comes to your mind? It's all your internal mechanism. You are having a dialogue inside your mind about should this be beautiful or ugly. So, the thought also covers this area. It's an effort to interpret metaphysical, universal and epistemological issues. Metaphysical, which are beyond physical experience, universal, which are not confined to one single place, and epistemological, that relates with concept of knowledge. Epistemology means theory of knowledge, concept of knowledge. So, human thought focuses on what is knowledge, what is thought itself, and all these questions are raised by philosophers. When we talk about thought and philosophical thought, then at least 4 branches come up to our understanding. First one is speculative or intellectual thought. You speculate, you think about it, your intellect works on it, and then you come up with some conclusions. Second is intuitive. Within your own self, you feel something is good or bad. While we are discussing this philosophical topic, someone without knocking at the door walks in, a person who is 7 feet 9 inches with a mask. You cannot see the face either. What will be your response immediately, intuitively? Afraid, frightened, defensive. That's what is meant by intuition. Gut feeling, as you call it. Is this a source of knowledge or not? It is. But how authentic? Our old friend William James from the US has whole philosophy based on intuition. Then experiential or mystical knowledge. Someone goes into seclusion for 5 years, 7 years, 20 years and come back and says, I have discovered truth. How? By concentration. The obvious example of Buddha. He was a prince and kept in palace by his parents in seclusion, so he will not face any problems. But by chance one day when he went out, he saw a dead body. He saw an old person. And that led him to think the life in palace was only rosy. But what is life? And what is this? Why people are weeping and crying? Why this old person is dragging? This experience led him to leave his palace and wander in forest for many years. And ultimately he came with an interesting statement, and that was, life is dukkha. Life is pain, suffering. What was the basis of that? The so-called mystical experience. When he was wandering, thinking, and trying to find out what life is. Whether he is right or wrong is not our concern. Our concern is there is some knowledge which claims to be experiential or mystical. Now, is that dependable knowledge or not? We don't know. Fourth one is religious or spiritual or revelational knowledge. Those people who follow Torah or Bible or any other book, they claim that whatever they have is revealed knowledge, revealed from their God. They may call their God with different names, but coming from a source. So, the knowledge that is given by religious texts, how far that is true, dependable, and if we go back to the first slide, does this kind of knowledge provide us with what's ultimate truth? Or ultimate truth is what I experience, or ultimate truth is what I feel intuitively, or ultimate truth is what I speculate. All these different branches of knowledge claim certain truth for themselves. What is ultimate truth out of all these? That's the enterprise of philosophy and philosophical thinking. That's not confused thinking. It is a systematic thinking trying to find out by process of elimination, which some Hindu philosophers call neti, denying one, denying the other, ultimately find out what is truth. So, these are in front of you statements that tell you about what are different kinds of thought. The word mysticism or mystical knowledge has its origin in mystery. Mystery. Mystery means riddle. Riddle means not resolvable easily. Therefore, the very terminology, mystical knowledge, tells you about a source of knowledge which is like a riddle, a mystery, but it is there. Every night when you are sleeping, you see a flashing light in your bedroom, but you never had anything which should flash. Mystical. You see one day, next day, 10 days, till you start thinking, oh, what's this? Is it some genie, some magic, some what? That's speculation. Then you start to investigate and maybe go to a Peer Sahib or anyone and he says, yes, I think it is a genie and whatnot. And they come and do some kind of exercises there. But what you can say is you saw a flash of light, that's all. But is that noor? Is that fluorescent light generated? Is that X, Y or Z? You cannot claim. Therefore, mystical experience remains a mystery. It remains confined to one who is having it and cannot be claimed to be equally valid for everyone. This is the problem with that knowledge. That therefore verifiability, certainty, truthfulness, all cannot be done. On the other hand, is this a cup made from porcelain, a material or not, is verifiable. I can take a piece of it to a lab and they can test it chemically, physically, by the weight of every atom and every molecule, and then say its molecular weight is this much, therefore it has to be this thing. Mystical knowledge is not like that. At the same time, other side of the coin, you say, I don't believe in that. Sheikh Sahib says, come, sit here. Close your eyes. Now start repeating X 1000 times and don't open your eyes, and you will see something. And after you repeat that 1000 times, you start feeling there is a green light, a yellow light, some kind of feeling. And when the Sheikh asks you, do you experience it? I experienced it. But what was that? I don't know. Again the same question of mystery, although there is an experience. That's why we say experiential and mystical knowledge. It is not non-experiential, but it's not empirical either. It's something different. The question is how far it can be taken as authentic. Islamic answer will come later. We are not dealing with Islam right now. We are dealing with Western thought. In Western thought, this feeling is given certainty by existentialism. Essentially say that whatever you experience is truth and ultimate truth. So they question empirical reality, and they say no, there is also experiential reality exists without empirical reality. So it's a school of thought we will talk about later on. Jean-Paul Sartre, French philosopher, and many others have talked about existentialism. So first area is that of political thought that deals with what are sources of power and power sharing and governance, what should be public policy, and what are the institutions which are required for legislation, executive, judiciary and national security. All these aspects are taken care in political thought. Economic thought relates with production, distribution, investment of wealth and meaning of quality of life of a people. Social thought deals with human behavior in society, social institutions like family, law, gender relations, social values and norms. And religious thought makes an effort to understand relation between the finite and the infinite, creator and the creation and knowledge of the ultimate truth. It could be theological, historical or spiritual in nature. And similarly, legal thought relates with what is dealing with freedom and use of freedom and law and legal principles, legal rights of people, administrative justice and society. And literary and cultural thought relates with language, values, concepts, customs, traditions, and purpose of life and goal of life. Having said that, these philosophical trends have also certain conceptual aspects, and those include materialism, which I mentioned earlier, emphasized by Karl Marx and many others. Actually, empiricism or empirical reality is also a matter of materialism, nothing different. It refers to a set of doctrines stressing primacy of material over other factors. Material factors are more important. So you go for demographic analysis, you go for financial analysis, you go for areas which are measurable, trends which are measurable, and then come up with conclusions. So everything is based on material reality. Then you have a school of thought which looks for pleasure, and it's not something new with Freud. It goes back to areas before Christ, to Epicurus and many others. And for them the goal of life is happiness and pleasure, which is symbolized in our youth with one single word, and that is fun. We will have this evening a gathering to have fun. And what is fun? It is sometimes drinking, sometimes dancing, sometimes obscenity, and that's what is meant by pleasure. So there is a school of thought which thinks that life is meant for enjoyment. Enjoyment by getting more wealth, by reputation, by physical enjoyment, and so on and so forth. So everything is done for that. Then we have a school of thought which is known as empiricism, from the Greek word empiria, experience. That source of all knowledge is to be found in experience, which is physical. It questions validity of rationalism as primary source of knowledge. Primarily it is material experience that should be the basis of knowledge. So here you have some of the names from British philosophical thought, and some others, French, Claude Lévi-Strauss, who questions empiricist claim and says that there is also a phenomena of myth and mythology which is not empirical, and therefore empiricism alone cannot be called ultimate source of knowledge. Those in the, not only in the African bush, but even those who live in highly civilized cultures, they live in mythologies. In a number of costly hotels in Europe, you don't have 13th floor, 11th floor and 14th floor. Why? Mythology. The 13 is not a good luck number. So mythology is not just with so-called Africans, but it is with every society. So Lévi-Strauss, and not only he but many others who believe in non-empirical knowledge. Then a school that is known as relativists, particularly in ethics and morality, and they think that it is the individual who should make his own judgment. Ethics is relative. Ethics of KPK, ethics of Sindh, ethics of Balochistan has to be different because they are different people. And this is what is fed in your mind and my mind for 200 years by the colonizer, because that's how he understood it. That's how he made us to understand things. And we think in his terms, not our terms. So, relativism means, and which is now manifested in blunt manner in one single statement: myself, my body. I decide what is right and wrong. I am an 18-year-old boy or girl. You old fellows who are my parents live in an old world. I know better than you. I decide what I want because UN defines me as adult and independent. I am no more a child. And same is done by people who may not speak in English, but who think they have grown and become adult, and these two persons who raise them, sacrifice everything they have for them, have become outdated, and therefore if I am coming late every evening and I am not showing my face to them for weeks and weeks, it's my right. They have no right to ask me, we want to see our son or daughter every day. It's my choice. Who are they? This is the manifestation, example of ethical relativism, an example of our mental slavery, cultural slavery, subjugation, colonization, but we never realize it. We feel proud and call ourselves modern when we act in that manner. This is a school which is not only confined to ethics, but covers every aspect of life. And then rationalism of Hegel and others, which says that whatever is rationally proven is correct and good. So, if your logical statements give you a result, then it is always true. And theology and religious aspects are not relevant because they cannot be proven rationally. It replaced Christian faith. I am still not talking at all about Islam or any aspect of Islam. I am just referring to how Western thought has developed. And then secularism, which is also an offshoot of that Western thought we discussed a while ago, and we will go perhaps in more detail sometime later about it. It stands for a bifurcation of life, dividing life in two domains: a domain which is of religious and a domain which is of secular. Something which is deen, something which is dunya. Whenever you have this divide, this means you believe in secularism. You are secular. Secularism does not mean you deny existence of God. Does not mean you are saying that you are atheist. No. But secularism means I believe in God, but God is relevant for me in church and synagogue, not in parliament. In parliament, it's okay for me to sell my vote and get a cash reward for supporting a bill. This is parliamentary ethics. I didn't accept this bribe in church. It was in parliament. A secular activity. If it was in church, it becomes religious. Church requires that I cover my head. So a thin scarf is used by ladies in church. But San Diego Beach does not require a dress. There I am sunbathing. It is secular world. That is religious world. Unfortunately, we Muslims never think objectively. We always think subjectively. We always think West has all evils, Muslims have no evils. Tell me very objectively, if a person has given a sermon on Friday on austerity, that we should live a simple life, and on Sunday evening or Friday or Thursday evening there is a wedding of his son or daughter, the same person who has given sermon on simplicity, what is he doing there? Is he not having lightning of the building for 7 days? Is he not in his home when his wife and family members are coming with candles in a tray and some henna in that, singing Indian songs? Is it not that when it's time for food, then not one but 5 dishes are prepared to show their status? Are they chaudhries or kakars or what or not? If all this is done, do we have a right to say British are secular and Muslims are not? Whenever you have these two standards, one in the masjid, beautiful sermon, very nice qiraat, but when you are doing things in society, when someone has taken some money from you and after 5 years want to return, do you accept same amount or say inflation has cut the cost, now you give me that much amount because inflation, because you don't want to call it interest? Where is taqwa at that point? whenever you have this dualism by two words of deen and dunya, you are a secular person. Secularity means dualism and not confined to the West or the East. It's a way of life. It's a way of comfort zone. It's a way of saying that, well, what else should I do? I have made my Umrah, made my Hajj, but I have no choice but to run my factory by taking loan from a bank and paying interest continuously. Nothing wrong in that, because it's a custom. It's how people do it. So when you are paying interest or taking interest from some people, which is haram, and you go and make Hajj and think you have cleaned everything, you are a secular person. Secularity is not atheism, not denying existence of God. I am still not talking about Islam. I am still talking about Western thought. We'll deal with the Islamic thought later on and try to find out what are its sources. My concern for this first sitting is just to have an idea about what is Western thought. Another school of thought is existentialism, where you have Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, Heidegger, Jasper, Bultmann, Sartre, Paul Tillich, many others, and they claim that your experience is ultimately true. The word they use is personal experience is the most authentic truth. Simple words. So, whatever comes to my mind and I decide is authentic. You have no business to tell me why I do not go for Jummah while you are going and we live in same office. No right, because it's me. I decide, should I make Jummah or not? Should I make Zohar prayer or not? On one and same campus, some faculty members at time of Zohar will leave silently and go to masjid. Others will be enjoying food or making telephone calls or doing some work. But when you say, let's go for prayer, what's the response? Well, it's my own decision. You take care of your prayer. I'll take care of myself. It's not your business. Why? Because for 200 years you are told you are individuals. You decide what is right and wrong. You have no concept of Amar bil Maruf. That was never taught to you. Even those who give sermons talked about it inside the masjid, never outside. So, existentialism is the basis of individualism that you find today, which has crept in every single Muslim family. We may not have the courage to admit it, but we are victims of individualism. Every person who gets married, male or female, has a desire, I should live my own life. I don't care for these persons with whom I was living for 18 years. Now I am myself. Individualism. Tell me how many homes can be exceptions to it today? Not even villages. So, existentialism is not just a matter of exists in London or Paris. No, these philosophies have influenced us because we are slaves. What are the implications of Western thought for life? First, objective of life determined in terms of personal needs like housing, transport, club membership, size of industrial unit, high position in bureaucracy, best variety of food and dress, all these things are determined by me. I decide which club I should become member, what kind of business I want to have. Individual freedom, personal right, individual satisfaction is the norm. And then control over resources through entrepreneurial capitalism. We are told that the 17 SDGs made by the white intellectuals for rest of the world want entrepreneurial society. So in every single discipline you should introduce a course of entrepreneurialism, which means how I run my own business, how I make my own industry, how I become a millionaire by myself. And that is essentially extension of a materialistic, hedonistic and self-centered, individualistic approach of life. Therefore, I summarize the Western thought in these three words: individualism, hedonism and power. Enjoyment, authority and myself to decide everything. I don't care. I want to sit on a Harley Davidson motorbike. I don't know how many of you have seen that. And speed up with voice pollution. I don't care for the people around, because I have spent so much money on this motorbike, which you see every day on every street. It's not Harley Davidson. It is the cheapest version of motorbikes, but making same hazard. No difference at all. Every single motorbike creates environmental pollution, but they don't care. It's not their problem. They are enjoying noise and pollution. So, the implications of Western thought are very simple in front of you, in plain words. And you have to think about how far your own family, your own life, your own way of living falls in this category or some other category. How far we are individuals and not yet a jama'ah, a community. That's why when I thought about values of this university, I felt that we should have collectivity, ijtimaiya as a value. So you develop a sense of family belonging. Otherwise, you are just like Western or Eastern philosophers, individuals. So every single thing we have tried to do in this university is different than what is being said just now. Its impact on political life is so-called democratization, sovereignty of the people, human institutions, and the terminology of democracy should be understood in the backdrop of democratization through regime change. Regime change means whatever Pentagon or White House or Politburo somewhere feels, they have a right to do it. The other word of democracy is preemptive strike. I know Iranians are going to hit White House after 20 years. I must destroy them today. Preemptive strike. These are two words that demolish democracy. Words, not words, but policies used by those who call custodians of democracy. Whether it's America or Britain or any country, You always find people saying, well, just go there and you find how honesty, how fairness, how punctuality, how hard work is operationalized. But you only see the surface.
Even sir, UNO is not acting according to the real democracy.
None of them. None of them.
Veto power, for example.
Ji. None of the institutions. You see. And I'm not saying it because I have read some books, but I have taught 12 years in America in different universities. I have lived enough there to understand the culture, experience it, and know the truth. Not just knowing by books and as a tourist seeing certain buildings and spaghetti highways and coming back and saying everything is rosy, or elsewhere. I have taught in China, I have taught in Malaysia, I have taught in many places, and I understand how society is, what is truth. And what books tell you is completely different. What TV tells you is different. What newspapers tell you is different. Newspapers are not your newspapers. They are summary of what they have read in Western press. They summarize that and put with their own names. Anyhow, so political order, impact on political order is that certain beautiful words are used. Democratization is a symbol of secularity, liberation from the church, but even democratization has become worse kind of terrorist and dictatorial psychology. Impact on social order of these philosophies is the so-called gender equality, free gender mixing as sign of progress and civility. If you are going to Riphah, be careful. This is a place of mullahs, so you have to be very careful about talking about things and behaving. Because if Riphah says some ethical values and gender mixing is the sign of modernity, how can both reconcile? No. So be careful with them. And this is the fruit of this Western thought. And you are seeing yourself results of gender mixing. You are seeing results in the form of a young person and a other young person become friend. They go out, dine together, they chat, they spend time, and one day the same young person comes with a gun and shoots that girl and runs away. It's not solitary incidents. It's what is reported and known. What's not reported is many more. So, after seeing with our own eyes, we never learn. These are natural outcomes of those philosophies which have been there for centuries. So, gender race in society. We must have equal number in everything. I always ask, can a human being who believes in equality appoint a female traffic constable in Sibi in June and July for 10 hours a day? If you can appoint and still claim you are a human being, you're not a human being. In that heat, in that kind of dry climate, if you want equality, then let her do 10 hours like the young man is doing. And if you do that, you are unfair to her. Is that meaning of equality or something different? Equality means this must be done to her. Equality means you must have 50% J-17 fighter pilots. I am not talking fiction, I am talking facts. When this J-17 fighter pilot climbs and breaks noise barrier, there is every probability he is going to faint or throw blood from his nose and mouth and recover in a few seconds. These are facts, not fiction. Go ahead, have equal number. Put them in Pakistan Navy. My half family belongs to Navy and half to Army. And ask them to go and de-anchor a ship. Ships are anchored with iron ropes and an anchor that goes and fixes. And you have to go deep dive in a skin-tight dress and unhook it. Equality means go and do it. Equality means in C-120, load packs of armaments, each weighing several tons, sometimes physically, not mechanically. Go ahead and do it. I'm not talking fiction, I'm talking about serious research is done in America, where I taught for a long period. Social scientists have done research. Margaret Mead of Chicago University worked on Vietnam problem and analysis of Vietnam. Some others have done their research on various academies of American Army, like Greensboro and West Point, where they train their officers. And the studies show, printed studies show that when these requirements were observed, then even those girls who were sports person could not perform equal to males. Certain things are natural, we cannot deny that. It's very easy to talk about them and make Aurat march and go and say that we have our own choice, our own body, because they are blinded by the Western ideology and Western slavery. So anyhow, the so-called gender identity, and by the way, I am not against any women. In 1980, I published a book on women and social justice. Later on, another book on gender, law and society, and many other areas. So I'm not a person who will discourage development and education among women, but I am against the idea of so-called equality. There has to be equity and fairness and not equality. So gender rights and family obligations and so many other areas fall under those titles, and all that are result of the so-called Western thought. One impact is that of marginalization of family. Family has been the unit that transfers culture and civilization to coming generations. And today, we have surrendered the role of family to TV screen, iPad, and ultimately smartphones. Smartphones that allow kids to take their breakfast and lunch and dinner. No child can eat food without a mother offering her mobile phone in front of the child. And that means there is family gone, taken over by that small smartphone. A smartphone tells the child how to smile, how to talk, how to walk, how to think, how to hit someone, how to trick someone. Everything is taught by that smartphone, not by parents at all. So a social vacuum is bound to be created. Crisis must take place, and if this continues, you have, in very simple words, death of culture and civilization. then you have only artificial characters created by ChatGPT. Everything artificial, nothing real, nothing human, but only mechanical. So the new gods and ideologies include nationalism and technology. Nationalism as a god of loving territory, language, race, ethnicity. I am Pakhtun, I am Baloch, I am Sindhi, I am Punjabi, this river is mine, this land is mine, the other people have no right to enjoy from it. All these are fruits, gods. These are gods, not one god, but several gods. Not only that, but God of brotherly. How can we marry our daughter to other brotherly? We better kill her than to allow her. All these are gods. So, the Western culture and Western philosophy has created not one but many gods. Technology, industrialization and colonization are linked together, they are interfaced, they cannot be separated. As a concept, it means the process by which societies acquire tools, organization and skills necessary to engage in mass production. And technology becomes your god and ruler. Techno culture is created. French philosopher Jacques Ellul has a beautiful book on that, techno culture. The scale and size of production becomes the benchmark of success. Which university has more students is more successful. A race to acquire natural resources leads to age of colonization. The white Anglo-Saxon community came to subcontinent with some pockets, some packages of tea and said, we just want to sell tea. Allow us to have a shop here. When shops were allowed, they said, we are insecure, allow us to bring some security for our shops. When some security was here, they said that we want some more territory to feel more secure. And only 7,000 soldiers controlled your whole region for 200 years. 7,000 white soldiers who came for trade. They did same in America. Americans rebelled against them, fought and got their freedom. But we could not after a long time. So colonization comes through technology. We give you F-16 and get huge money from you. But you cannot make any change in it. Or we give you F-16 for half the price. But when a small nut is to be replaced, you pay us several million rupees for that one nut. We make up for our kindness. Because we are very fair people, very honest people. All white people are fair. These are ground realities, these are not fiction. We never try to understand life. So, technology and modernization becomes the benchmark of success, and ultimately layers and layers of colonization are put on us. All that boils down to one single terminology. Waqt ho gaya bhi? Oh, sorry. We will continue. I don't want to steal time from the next resource person. I have to stop now, and we will inshallah complete it when we meet next and then continue further. All my lecture points are available to you on your online. They are told to provide you these before I begin my lecture. So you go over them, raise your questions, and do read some material on those topics so we can have more meaningful discussion. The purpose is to create an interactive environment. I am not happy at all today for your silence. I want you to break the silence and disagree and loudly raise your questions. Okay? Only then we can benefit.